Yes. Okay.
All right, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time I would ask Ms. Flatness to do roll call, please.
Karen Flatness, here. Joanne Maloney,
Here.
Rich Mueller,
Here.
Travis Routh is absent, I believe. Neil Schlake,
Here.
Dan Schmidt,
Here.
Rick Schultz.
Here. Thank you, Ms. Flatness. We have an agenda in front of us. I would entertain a motion to approve that if there are no corrections. Dr. Carlson?
No corrections.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schlake, seconded by Mr. Mueller to approve the agenda as presented. Ms. Flatness, please.
Karen Flatness, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Neil Schlake,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. I don't believe we have any public comments this evening, so we will move right into the superintendent's report. Dr. Carlson, please.
Thank you. Just a couple additional comments regarding my written report to you. On the back of the first page, just under the construction update, note that we are looking at identifying some priority points for tuck pointing. And then also looking ahead to the east entrance at the elementary school, redoing that canopy. And so those are two kind of additional things that were on the list, that have been kind of on hold to see, but we elevated both those items, depending on how our budget was looking. And so that's in combination though with our long-term facility maintenance dollars. So in fact, probably a large part of those are going to be funded that way. So it's not necessarily coming from money that was part of the original budgeted amount with our construction project, but paired with money from our long-term facility maintenance as well. I've tried to make you aware, board, there's some learning opportunities this summer and going into the school year with the School Board Association webinar series, as well as they've had the summer seminar that is coming, that's available as well. So if you have any, that's coming up in August. If you have any interest in participating in the summer seminar, let us know. That'll be coming up quickly. We continue to plan for the school year. A lot is happening. Of course, a lot of unknowns still. And so we have numerous staff working. Our core teacher group continues to work on our 3 plans. Right now, the priority continues to be on the hybrid model. But we also have our transportation group that we met with last week, and our food service. They are working on those unique challenges that are very important as well as other things. So our goal is to bring our plans to you at the August 17th school board meeting for your consideration, review, and approval. We hope that sometime next week, the week of July 27th, we are given further and a little bit more clarification from the state on how we are to start the school year. And it'll be one of those 3 plans. But also, as I note, I think the intent will be that, and this is why we have to develop all plans for all 3 scenarios, because once we get started, there might be some more local decision opportunities available to us, so that as we follow guidance, we would be able to move from one to another. As you know, based on whether we have positive, cases that we might have to dial back a little bit, or perhaps the other way. But one of the things that's very clear to us at this point is local school districts will be able to be more restrictive if they choose to be. We just won't be able to be less restrictive than what we are directed at the state level. So with that, note that in my report, I did add some further updates. Mr. Bunn added some updates there on specifically the secondary group, as far as our teacher group, as well as Mr. Anderson provided an update as well. So I encourage you to read those if you have not already. Do you have any questions as far as my report? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Carlson. Are there any board members that would like to make some comments this evening? All right, with that, then we'll move into the information and communications. As Dr. Carlson has already mentioned, our next regular scheduled meeting will be Monday, August 17th, and we will continue here at the Secondary School Media Center at 6:30 p.m. That'll take us into the consent agenda items, and if you would introduce those, please, Dr. Carlson.
Yes. Part of the consent agenda, you have board meeting minutes from the regular meeting on June 15th, as well as the special work session from July 7th. Board bills in the amount of $2,017,599.23. We have a list of donations. Finley's Wings at Work to the Gratitude Campaign in the amount of $500. Michigan Auto Parts to Clay Target for $150. Wasika Slave Cutter Festival, the Clay Target for $500. Virgil's Auto Clinic, Clay Target for $200. Rick's Appliance, Clay Target for $25. Woodridge Interiors, Clay Target for $150. Eagle Concrete to the Clay Target for $75. Midwest Repairables, Clay Target, $100. Budox, Napa, Clay Target, $100. Heartland Firefighters, Clay Target, $500. Geneva Lumber, Clay Target, $100. Trappers Lanes, Clay Target for $100. The ARO Accounting, Clay Target for $150. Peterson Trucking, Clay Target for $500. And Blue Knights, Clay Target for $100. I think totaling about $3,250. So thank you for those donations. You also have the annual renewal for the school board as far as membership into the Minnesota School Board Association. And you also have the annual renewal for the Minnesota Rural Education Association in our membership. Two organizations that I think are very valuable to this school district. Under workforce, we have a few items. Courtney Klossick, you have part of the consent to renew her contract. Ms. Klossick was part of those that were non-renewed due to licensure issues back in March. And so we have her on to be renewed. You also have a reassignment. And quite honestly, I need to own that this was planned to be in the June agenda, and we didn't get it in until this agenda. This reassignment is for Ms. Wendy Schultz, who has agreed to serve as a physical education instructor at the elementary level. And typically, you remember this, that when teachers when there's a position that's open, we first look and give opportunity to our current staff, and if they're interested in the position, and the principal has the authority just to assign that person upon mutual agreement if they hold the appropriate license. And currently, right now, Ms. Schultz does not, and so this would be for 1 year for this school year, and then unless licensure status changes, this position would be reposted. We've had this type of situation before when we posted and have not received qualified applicants that hold the appropriate licensure. And so this provides us an opportunity to have Ms. Schultz fill this position. And so we thank her, and she's excited about this opportunity. So we look forward to having Wendy in this position for the school year. We also, in June, typically have brought forward our teachers that are moving on the probationary track leading to tenure. And we did not do that. We thought that maybe the board does not have to approve those. But we thought, I think in the end there was a desire to. So we put that back on for the board agenda, and we, after tonight, we will notify those persons that yes, they are officially advancing. And so we have, moving to second year, Marcus Fisher, Olivia Erickson, Aaron Creddick, Brittany Nesbitt, Sarah Miskin, Cassidy Williams, Cynthia Gale, and Liz Sternagel. So they all have completed their first year. Completing their second year successfully, Kelly Dale Cruz, Neil Fox, Mark Kruger, and Brittany Waters. And then finally moving to tenure, having completed the necessary requirements, Missy Dunn, Kylie Lasan, Miles Ottsdott, and Susan Shaw. So we thank all of them and congratulate them. You have the South Central Human Relations Purchase of a Service Agreement. This is an annual agreement that we have with that organization to provide mental health services. And you also have the statewide enrollment options where we have one student who is moving into our district but is choosing for this coming year at this point to stay with where they've been at. All right, I hope I have covered everything as part of the consent agenda. If you want to discuss or vote on something separately, you simply request for that item to be pulled out. And if not, there simply would be a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schlake, seconded by Mr. Schmidt to approve the consent agenda as presented. Ms. Flatness, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Karen Flatness, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Neil Schlake,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. All right, moving into reports, I have a report on the superintendent 2019-20 evaluation summary. If you recall, we had Dr. Carlson's annual evaluation last month, and it is our obligation to generate a summary and read it at the following month's school board meeting, so I will do that now. The NRHEG Board of Education met in closed session on Monday, June 15, 2020 to perform the annual evaluation of Superintendent Dale Carlson's performance as authorized by MS 13D.05 Subdivision 3A. Those present at the meeting included Board of Education members Karen Flatness, Joanne Maloney, Rich Mueller, Travis Routh, Neil Schlake, Dan Schmidt, Rick Schultz, and Superintendent Dr. Dale Carlson. The BOE utilized the board adopted evaluation tool to review and discuss 5 work goals and 2 performance areas. These work goals and performance areas were established by the board and approved at the September 16, 2019 regular school board meeting. The BOE determined that Dr. Carlson met or exceeded expectations in the following goal areas. Provide leadership to implement and monitor the school district's established world's best workforce plan achievement goals and targets, student achievement. The BOE believes Dr. Carlson has done his due diligence in implementing the district's WBWF. He has kept the BOE informed on the plan and development and results. Dr. Carlson is to continue supporting staff in the development, monitoring, analyzing, and revising the WBWF actions as needed in order to achieve student performance goals and targets. Number 2, provide leadership to ensure the effective management of school district finances. Dr. Carlson presented a planned 2021 budget to the board that achieved the board's financial goal targets. His decision-making continues to be based on what is in the best interest of students. The BOE acknowledges that the COVID-19 pandemic has added financial variability and that will continue to be challenging to project as part of the budget planning. This goal will be an ongoing focus and the priority for Dr. Carlson in the coming year and beyond, given the financial challenges projected for the district. Number 3, ensure the facility construction and remodel project is designed to optimize staff performance and student learning in a safe, sustainable, and attractive environment. This is in the facilities department. The BOE is appreciative of Dr. Carlson's leadership and oversight of the construction planning and process, including making sure the project is completed within the budget. The BOE appreciates the frequent communications and updates provided to the board regarding the project. Provide leadership to advertise, recruit, and retain quality licensed staff. This is number 4 in the workforce area. The BOE acknowledges the good work in the development of a process to collect data on employee retention, including an exit interview tool and employee retention tracking tool that has provided meaningful information and data to examine and determining gaps in the recruitment and retention of staff. This goal will be ongoing as a next step is to develop an action plan to be used to identify root causes, targets, benchmarks, and strategies for determining and addressing retention-related gaps. Number 5, support implementation of the 1920 school board goals that include adopt a planned budget for the 2021 year that achieves the board's fund balance target range while minimizing a projected deficit budget not to exceed $200,000. Integrate the finance committee into the budget development process with the purpose of annually planning and managing revenue and expenditure budgets that meet or exceed fund balance goal. Ensure construction and remodel projects achieve teaching and learning needs identified in planning, addresses infrastructures, maintenance, needs identified in planning, and minimizing disruption to student instruction and activities. Ensure construction and remodel projects achieve goals while remaining within budget. Develop long-range facility plan for addressing needs identified in assessment but not part of the 2020 remodel. Improve communication and engagement with staff, parents, businesses, and community members in order to maximize student success. Work in cooperation with community groups to increase pride in the NRHEG public schools. The BOE acknowledges Dr. Carlson's effective leadership in assisting the BOE in achieving its work goals. The BOE noted the impact that COVID-19 had on both Dr. Carlson's work goals and the BOE's goals. The BOE acknowledges Dr. Carlson's communication with staff, parent, public, and the Board of Education in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The BOE also determined that Dr. Carlson exceeded expectations in the 2 performance areas which focus on his relationship with the board and his personal qualities. The BOE expressed appreciation of Dr. Carlson's leadership and strengths in the areas of communications, transparency, and high standards of ethical behavior, honesty, integrity, and professionalism. For the upcoming school year, the BOE will identify revisions and additions to the above goals and performance areas. This is read at the July 20th, 2020 regular school board meeting by Board Chair Rick Schultz and recorded in the minutes. Any questions on that? If not, we will move into number 12, recommended actions, student support, the 2021 resolution for membership in the Minnesota State High School League. Dr. Carlson, please.
And it's just going to take us a moment to transition. Mr. Stork, are you with us?
I am, yes.
Okay, so while Ms. Ace is here to help me transition, I'll let Mr. Stork just briefly introduce, and that'll take us into video. So, Mr. Stork?
Okay, thank you. And, first of all, just want to let you know that each year we renew our membership with the Minnesota State High School League. And to do so, The league requires school boards to watch the video, the annual video that we've seen in the past, as well as pass the resolution being presented tonight. So I'm asking that at this time we can start the video, and once the video is finished, if you have any questions, I'll be available for those questions.
Thank you.
By the time students reach middle school, their families have already spent an incredible amount of time, energy, and resources on their child's sports experiences.
Private coaches, tryouts, travel tournaments, and increasing pressure to specialize in a single sport at an early age.
The reality is less than 3% of our athletes will ever go on to play college, and less than 1% of our athletes will ever play professionally.
This means 97% of students will have a terminal experience. When they graduate, their competitive playing days are over. So what's the purpose?
The purpose is the human growth and development of our students and connecting them to caring adults in their learning community.
For this to happen, it takes leadership and a community aligned around this purpose.
The purpose of a caring adult in students' lives has never been more important. Students face an incredible amount of pressure. There's peer pressure and social pressure and academic pressure and pressure to perform on the playing field or in the arts area. And what that's resulting in is a mental health crisis where kids are facing anxiety and depression. There's a study called Hardwired to Connect that identifies 3 fundamental needs that every human being has. The need to belong, the need to have some type of moral development, and we define moral as relationships to other people, and then that base community, which is really being held accountable to a set of expectations and boundaries. Athletic and activity programs can really provide a caring community for students. It's a place for them to be connected. It takes leadership to intentionally create connections and to create a culture that supports students in a caring community.
My purpose statement is to coach to create a love of the game and foster community and growth among our student athletes.
Shift your weight forward and backwards. Good. The AD is the front-facing public person that's really leading the charge for all of the things that happen within that program that, again, are so beneficial to the student.
A strong activities director or athletic director is going to have the pulse of their school, is going to influence and impact the students through others, and create that experience that we're looking for all kids.
In my particular role as the activities director, I call it leading from the middle out. I need to work with my principal and my superintendent, and I need to work with my school board to understand what purpose-based activities are, what they look like, what they should feel like with our student athletes. And then I need to train coaches, work with athletes, work with our student body.
The value of a strong activities director for the entire system is something that I can't put a price tag on.
We've got 3 brand new board members.
And it's important for school board members to understand the purpose of our activities and athletic programs so that they remember their role in supporting our work and supporting our staff and in supporting our activities director and what he does.
We are really here to change the arc of every athlete's life. I think the most important thing I do is connect students to each other, connect students to the school day, connect students to meaningful adults.
We want to win a state tournament. We want to have a winning record. But what's most important than that is having a winning culture.
It's all about the student experience, and that doesn't necessarily equate to winning, but that equates to being able to walk away and say, I had fun, I got better. I did the best that I could. I want to continue. I know more about myself, and I'm more prepared for whatever might come my way in the future.
We have to align our communities in order for athletic administrators and coaches to be supported.
Our school board knows that we're about more than just wins and losses, that we're part of the educational program and part of the educational system. It's great to be able to show up at work every day knowing that you're supported by your school board, your superintendent, and your principal, and that you have the ability to support your coaches, athletes, participants, and their families. It's very important that you have all of those important stakeholders in alignment and that they understand what the common language is and what it means to have a successful experience.
My purpose as a captain is to use the sport of baseball to help teach life lessons that'll help people down the road.
The adults are purposeful and deliberate about engaging with students about something bigger than themselves. I may do it in my social studies classroom by teaching history, and I may then later do it in my role as a softball coach. But the experience that the kids get, that alignment that is tied through, is that we are here to impact your life in a positive way.
There's no more rewarding feeling for me as an activities director to hear them say that they became a better person through their participation in our activities.
I think the greatest thing that a school board can do is to define success, to publicly state that here's how we are going to define success within our school community. Are we growing and developing better people? Are we modeling the kind of character that we want our students to leave our school communities with and go into the world with? Awareness is critical. We have to be aware of the purpose of why sports are part of our school community. And finally, not only do we have to hold our coaches accountable, we have to hold our school communities accountable to the transformative power of what sport can be, and that is connecting students to caring adults in their learning community. By the time students reach middle school,
Well, as you noticed, there was a new video this year. We had the same video there for several years in a row, so I'm glad they updated the video this year. Good video. It's something that we, as athletic director and coaches, work together constantly on. Different initiatives and things that we're trying to do to make our experiences meaningful and better for our kids here at NRHEG. With that, I would ask that the board approve the resolution tonight to join membership into the Minnesota State High School League for the 2020-21 school year. And no, I'm sorry, I do not know if there would be false points. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Mr. Stork?
This time I would, well, we need a motion then to
I'll make a motion to approve
membership.
the resolution membership as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schlake, seconded by Ms. Flatness to have a resolution for membership in the Minnesota State High School League. Ms. Flatness, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Karen Blattness, aye. Joanne Maloney.
Aye.
Rich Mueller.
Aye.
Neil Schlake.
Aye.
Dan Schmidt.
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Moving into...
Thank you, Mr. Stork.
Yes.
You bet, thank you.
Moving into facilities, we have a 10-year long-term facility maintenance plan here this evening. Dr. Carlson, please.
Yes, and I'm going to ask Ms. Christopherson just to make a couple brief comments regarding, we have the resolution in front of us, but also it can bring up some of the other, as far as the overall plan. But Ms. Christopherson, would you just make some brief comments, please?
Yeah, if you want to just flip ahead to the third item, the revenue projection, please.
Which one, Carla?
Letter C there, revenue projection.
Revenue projections.
All right, well, I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Nothing too different from other years in here. if you remember when the program first started, it was a phase-in. We're now at this $380 per pupil that we receive in funding. Unless we want to go outside of the regular things and ask for additional money for special projects. To date, we have not done that. So we are just getting the normal $380 per pupil allowance. So that's pretty standard. The state calculates that all for us. Let's set that one aside and go to the expenditure. This one we have a little bit more control and year-to-year planning involved in this one. So again, you know, it's just showing the next 10 years out. They're not too concerned about years 7, 8, 9, and 10. They're just wanting you to kind of focus on what's coming up. The first section we work with IEA on and kind of determine some of our health and safety needs. A lot of things have to happen every so many years, so we stay on pace with, you know, a 5-year radon chapter or whatnot. So that's the first section. The second section has to do with projects over 100,000. I had mentioned that to date so far we haven't done that. If you think back to the 15 referendum that failed, there was a separate calculation done for taxpayers that said if that went through, we were also going to do some air quality things then. And that would have been tapping into additional funding, still taxing people, but also getting state aid. So that's why that section is 0. As we go down, accessibility, we did tap into that a little bit. We added some handicap accessible entrance down, say outside of Mr. Stork's office. So we looked into that a little bit. Apologize for Fido there in the background. And then that last section of expenditures. Fiscal year 21, we're working with Knutson a little bit on tapping into some of our LTFM money to do some things. We've kind of earmarked $200,000 right now. And as Dr. Carlson mentioned at the beginning, we will use some of that towards some tuck pointing. To get right down into it, that falls under the category of building envelope. And site projects will work on upgrading that canopy, for example. So I just want to see some numbers and some thought put into it. I think we're all pretty comfortable with the rules. You can't build new, you can't add on, but you can keep up the old stuff, so to speak. So it requires you to complete these resolutions. Dr. Carlson signs off on the statement of insurance. We send these live spreadsheets up there. They check a box that we've done our jobs, and then they allow us to levy for that money. So that's kind of the process that we've been doing annually now for a few years.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, let me throw one more thing in there. Again, this is a pot of money that you can go negative if a project requires it, but to date we have accumulated a bit of a savings account. So June 30th of 19, we ended with $233,367 under LTFM. That's why we kind of picked that $200,000 figure. We'll end 20 with a surplus. We'll get this spent 200,000 in 21, and then we'll come away with a surplus. Plus, we have some things planned in 21. So after the project's done, we'll continue to find projects that we need to do. We have a list of things we couldn't do with this project that will fit under this money. So we'll just keep moving forward. It's a good problem that we have that money available. But yes, any questions?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Christopherson.
If not, we're going to entertain a motion to approve this 10-year long-term facility maintenance plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Schleich to approve the long-term facility plan. This Flatness.
Karen Flatness, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Neil Schleich,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. My fault there, mine got on somehow.
See, that's tough.
Moving into finance, budget development calendar for 2020-21. Dr. Carlson, please.
Thank you. It's that time that we look at, we will begin the process for 21-22 budget development. And so this is what you adopted a number of years ago, but so on an annual basis, we bring this forward to you, and this gives us a general guide of the steps that we follow as we go through the budget development year. This also incorporates or embeds some of checks or revisions of the current year budget into this calendar. So we have two things going on. This is a guide to help us look at 21-22, but at the same time, it's reminding us to come back at checkpoints, namely in November and February, then at the end of the year in May, to look at our current budget and make any changes or adjustments to it as appropriate. So, be happy to answer questions. Otherwise, looking for a motion to, once again, to adopt the budget development calendar for 21-22.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schleich, seconded by Ms. Flatness to approve the budget development calendar as presented for 2021-22. Any further discussion? Ms. Flatness, please.
Karen Flatness, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Neil Schleich,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Moving on, we're familiar with the bus lease agreement. We have that on the agenda again this evening. Dr. Carlson, please.
We are bringing this back to the board for your consideration. I know, again, in June, it was asked to just put on tonight's agenda. And so here we are. We are coming forward asking the board's consideration to go ahead and approve the lease. We really don't know any more information about the fall plans than what we did a month ago. However, we just, the unknown and waiting another month for the next board meeting, it just makes us a little nervous, but actually quite nervous, to the point that we are recommending to go ahead and move forward to you with this lease.
And with the hybrid thing, we'll probably need more buses because of the, is that a fair statement? I mean.
But everybody, yeah, the question is, with the potential hybrid model, what's going to be the demand, the number of buses? Is there a potential that we might need more? I suppose there's always the potential, but I would hate to speculate at this point. We're still in the planning phase. I know our transportation department has been the last several days working on how, some possibilities. And so I think, is it a possibility, Mr. Schleich? Absolutely. But it would be premature to say definitely yes.
I'll make a motion to do the 2 bus lease deal.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schleich, seconded by Mr. Schmidt to approve the bus lease agreement as presented. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Flatness, please.
Karen Flatness, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Neil Schleich,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Resolution relating to increasing the general education revenue of the school district and calling an election. Dr. Carlson, please.
Well, what you have in front of you, it looks really not much has changed other than some of the fine details since your July 7th work session. So we did have a legal review as well as our financial consultant looked it over. And so you have before you the resolution calling for the, put the question on the November 3rd ballot as far as increasing the general education revenue for the school district in the amount of $560 per adjusted pupil unit for 10 years. And so those were the key things that you decided at that work session. Really, the rest of it is unchanged. It's really directing, for example, the clerk of what to do and the clerk's authority on behalf of the board. I'm happy to read through, but why don't I read the first paragraph, that be it resolved by the school board of Independent School District 2168, the board hereby determines and declares that it is necessary and expedient for the school district to increase its general education revenue by $560 per adjusted pupil unit. As provided by law, the ballot question must abbreviate the term per adjusted pupil unit as per pupil. The additional revenue will be used to finance school operations, and the property tax portion thereof will require an estimated referendum tax rate of approximately 0.1079761% of the referendum market value of the school district for taxes payable in 2021, the first year it is to be levied. The proposed referendum revenue authorization would be applicable for 10 years, unless otherwise revoked or reduced as provided by law. The question on the approval of this referendum revenue authorization shall be school district question number 1 on the school district ballot at the special election held to approve said authorization. As you look down the resolution, you will come down to what really more of the ballot, I think under item 5 would be looking like, and again, this is taken from a template that has been reviewed by our legal counsel. So, unless you would like me to read further other parts of the resolution, this is a time for you to ask questions. We will do our best to respond, but I don't think it really again inserts those key items that you decided back on July 7th. So otherwise, your action needed tonight would be to adopt this resolution. Questions?
I think a lot of this was covered in our work session, so I'm thinking that most board members are comfortable with the information. It's always nice to see it actually turn into the actual question, and I think this covers the specifics of what we were asking for and where we feel our budget needs to be. So I appreciate the fact that I think it's clear and straightforward, non-confusing. We have the length stated in there as 10 years and the amount, and from here our objective will be to educate the public on the reasons behind this question. So but due to deadlines and things beyond our control, we need to start this process so we can have it on the November 3rd ballot. So if there are no further questions about it, we would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the referendum.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Schlake, seconded by Mr. Mueller to approve the referendum question as presented. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Flatness, please.
Karen Flatness, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Neil Schlake,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye.
Moving on to workforce, we have two contract.
I'm
excuse me.
sorry, Mr. Smith,
Excuse me.
if I could interrupt, I think
Absolutely.
if we could just have a little time, since it's connected to this, just talk about talking
Oh,
points.
excuse me, I
just briefly.
totally, yep.
Nope, that's all right.
Please apologize for missing that.
This doesn't necessarily need to be an action item by the board tonight. It's just, we'd appreciate, I shared with you that we would be working on some initial so-called talking points for the board, as well as start to put out information to the public. So we've been working on this, Northern Securities assisted as well. And whatever you're comfortable with tonight, this is for your benefit. The idea behind some initial talking points would be to not have a long list of things, to keep it very brief, but some key ideas so that you can we can all kind of get them to our memory, put them in our memory, and so that it's just kind of a natural part of your conversations that you may have out in the community. So there'll be much more detail and a lot of more information that we will communicate and put out there in different ways. But for tonight, we were just interested in a draft that has started put together for you, as well as sharing with the general audience and public. But you notice the watermark of draft. This would not be anything official until we make sure that you're comfortable. We did put it on as a potential action item, but that would be up to you. This would be, I don't know if it's that necessary to take action on this, as much as we want to get something in your hands that would be useful to you as soon as possible. So at this time, we would invite discussion, questions, thoughts on what you have in front of you so far at this point. And while you're pondering and thinking about some questions, comments, I meant to say too that we did take some of your comments at the July 7th work session and apply it in here. So for example, there was a comment that we noted about mandates that are not funded. And so some of those things are added to the length, and that was a concern for us, so we try to be concise and as brief as possible, and in some ways note things that in the end our expenditures are not keeping up, or the revenue is not keeping up with our expenditures, and there's a whole list of reasons why. So I just wanted to note that we're aware of the comments that board members made. We spent time examining those, and yet this is a starting list, and we would love your input, reaction, and perhaps ideas of what we need to add or edit. All right, I'll be quiet.
My question was, when I read through this, is without being threatening, is that part of the community surveys in 2018-16 respondents identified these, so we're showing them we already cut 160,000 and still planning this. How can you make that these things are not going to be able to go on if we don't get, I don't want to give them the fearful, but if it didn't pass, where are you going to cut money? How could you give more examples of, it's stating that we want to retain these, but how can you put that fear of God that these are the things we're going to lose? Or does it state that and I just don't read enough into it as far as if this referendum, as far as a sense of urgency, I guess, of what we are going to lose? Because I know the first thing is, they had all kinds of fat, they cut 160, they'll be able to cut it 200. That's the type of, it just seems like we always want to blame corporate America that way. They got plenty of fat they can cut, but I don't know.
Sure.
To get to know on this 200,000, and yet on the same, you don't want to get too lengthy and coupled, just like I'm talking here and getting it muddled, but I guess.
Fair, absolutely, and that's something the board will.
I don't know how.
We need that feedback on how you want to come across with that messaging. What we tried to do was take the data and information that we know we have that's factual, and make some statements that we know we can support those as far as we can grab that data, we can grab that information from surveys, we have it. And so what were some just takeaways that we could put out there? And that, you're right, Mr. Slake, we went more, if you look at that last bullet with the long list of things that respondents had said what's important, we kind of thought, well, let's say it, I'm gonna pause it, here's things that we're doing, and our community says this is important. And I guess that last comment is meant to say, you could take it how you want. The board has decided that in order to keep, in order to address these and maintain them, we need the additional revenue. So one might just be able to say from that, without that.
Yeah, I just don't know if you need more teeth. I mean, you gotta grab people's attention of where we're at, I think. And not threaten them either, but.
It's just like, these are talking points for you to give you as a guide. You don't have to stick to it word for word for word, but, so however you want to personalize it and put it across. We put it in front of you because, as it's stated, we feel we can certainly support and back them up. But, in the end, you're right, that'd be something.
I mean, you don't want to put the fear of God into them, but them things are the things that, I mean, when you go to the next cut.
Well, it's safe to assume class size would go up, I mean, it would happen, and again, the items listed here are things that would truly be affected. You can't predict the future, but we as a board would need to prioritize and make those cuts, in the event of this not failing. But to pick out one specific, and I don't think you're necessarily asking for that either, but
no, I'm not.
I read you loud and clear as far as how sometimes we need to have our eyes open as to what exactly it is, but it would be devastating, I think, to the.
Kind of back to trying to play in the major leagues with a college team. I mean, when you look at the dollars difference in some of the school districts, it's going to be hard to retain not only staff, but enrollment if we're not offering everything our neighboring school districts are. And we got to step to the plate and get there, but how do you get that message?
Public education has become very competitive. And people are willing to move their families based off of what offerings are there. So if we're not competitive with our neighbors, we will lose enrollment, and that's exactly one of the issues we're facing here. So again, I'm looking forward to the education process of the public and having those discussions and in answering questions. And again, we may not have the answer to every individual question, but it's very legit. We've done our homework on this, and again, the administration has looked through it, and we've done some cutting, and so.
And that's one thing I will comment that I really liked about that, is because through my years of ag business and all the numerous I'm just going to go with school referendums, they always think, well, fail at this time, they can make better cuts or come with a better plan. Well, cost keeps going up and it doesn't get any cheaper. I mean, they've already done their homework, whereas I do like that statement here that we already cut the 160,000, we're still so I think that, like you say, I think it's excellent on the talking points. It's just trying to, how do you get through to each and every person and answer their questions and educate them.
Yeah, not intended for as an official action item tonight, but I appreciate the feedback, and we can make some tweaks to it, making some notes.
And it's gonna be just kind of a note card to carry with to,
Yeah.
Right.
here, read this. This is, maybe reading it rather than me blabbering about it. But
Yeah, this, again, something that you can reference. You each will obviously add kind of your personal experiences and other thoughts, but just as a place to go, we're comfortable with what we put here, but happy to make some edits right now as well.
Anyone have anything else to add about that, or we will move on if there are no further comments? And again, I think Dr. Carlson has hit on that it is a work in progress and it can be
I think it's very
addressed but it's a great starting place, I think, so.
What we'll do is we'll take another quick look at it, and then I'll make any minor changes if there needs to be, and we'll remove the word draft, and we'll put that out to you after tonight.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Now we can get into the workforce area, the contracted services. Dr. Carlson, please.
We have, we're very grateful that we have two individuals who are willing to help our school district out. As the board knows, our school nurse, Carrie Petzinger, will be on an approved leave of absence for the majority of the school year coming up. And so Ms. Ann Lang, who has helped us in the past, even as recently as spring of 2019, has agreed to fill in and serve as our school nurse. And so you have, we've agreed on a rate of $30. She is looking at an average of about 5.5 hours a day. And there are, every other week, she does have a commitment with another employer, but so we're grateful that she is able to do this. And with your approval tonight, we will start getting her involved, just because of so much going on, that the critical role that our school nurse will play throughout the entire school year. And so, anyway, we're thankful to have her joining us. Ms. Shauna Peterson-Brown, this is a service, psychologist services. We have contracted through Waseca in the past, and we've pooled kind of those Waterville and Janesville, us and Waseca. We've shared, it's part of our special education services as well, but more specifically our psychologist services. We've been unsuccessful to hire a full-time person to share among some of the school districts. And yet, so Shauna Peterson-Brown is willing to step in and help us on a very part-time basis. We're actually going to share her as a half-time position with Waterville. And so we're going to have about 0.2 FTE, or about 37 days, equivalent to 37 days. We've worked out an agreement. It would be the same rate with Waterville of the $475 as a daily rate. So we have those for you. I think we actually put them as separate motions. I think that would be appropriate to do them as separate motions. So the first one would be the school nurse, Ann Lang. If you have questions, otherwise we have a motion to approve the school nurse long-term substitute agreement of Ann Lang at the rate of $30 per hour.
I'll make a motion to approve the school nurse contract.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Slake, seconded by Mr. Schmidt to approve Ann Lang as the school nurse. Any further discussion? Ms. Flatness, please. Oops, excuse me.
Dr. Carlson, this is Rich. Would she be splitting her time between the two buildings, or would she be just in the secondary building?
Yeah, the majority of the time would be in the secondary building, but the school nurse would be overseeing the district health operations. And so, but this person would work closely with Donna Olson at the elementary. But Ann would be, her primary, when it comes down to it, would be to, most of her hours would be in the secondary school building.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Flatness, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Karen Flatness, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Neil Schlake,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Moving on to Shauna Peterson Brown. Any additions there?
No additional comments.
Okay.
If there's no questions, then again, a similar motion to approve school psychologist's agreement with Shauna Peterson Brown for services up to 37 days at a rate of $475 per day.
I'll make a motion to approve the Shauna Peterson Brown contract.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Ms. Maloney to approve the Shauna Peterson Brown's contract as presented. Ms. Flatness, please.
Karen Flatness, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Neil Schlake,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Moving into board governance, the 2019-20 self-evaluation. Dr. Carlson, please.
Before I start, I think if it's all right with the board, I think we, unless you have reason, I think we could, Ms. Christopherson could, and any others that, non-board members, if you want to stay on, you can, but I think that it'd be okay that if Paula wanted to end her time, she can. Board members, is that all right? Okay. Ms. Christopherson, that's your choice if you want to stay on. All right, so annually the board talks about its own, examines its own performance as a board, and so tonight put together a document that has been used before. And as we work through this, I'll kind of I don't know if I can help direct or kind of walk us through it. It doesn't matter. But there are different parts, and so you have the first part, kind of an overall self-evaluation by the board. And if you walk through this document, see if I can scroll down, you'll get into the goal areas that you had assigned to yours, or you had identified for that past year, the 19-20 goal areas. And then we get into the next part. There's several kind of categories that really have to do with your work together as a school board. And kind of that governance or leadership, and whether it's under the categories of, again, just learning together, your vision and leadership, the school board meeting, your relationship and roles and responsibilities with each other and also superintendent, policy, work, and then more on the school board superintendent relationship, school community relations, finance, and then workforce. So you as a board can discuss and share and go through as much as this as you want. This is really for you. It's not the superintendent. Superintendent is here to support you, to meet your performance as a board, but this is for you. So it is important, I feel, that you do take time annually and talk as a group and review and possibly even look at areas to focus on. After this, you're going to, maybe embedded in this, you're going to talk about potential goals or focuses for this coming year. So, that's an introduction. How would you like to proceed? I'm happy to help in any way as far as facilitating through this.
us right across.
Yeah,
the board.
I think we did fantastic. We're grateful.
I love self-evaluations.
Right. No, and it always is a difficult job to kind of look at ourselves and identify, you know, areas that we can improve and in the same token compliment ourselves. But starting with this letter A, you know, when I go through these different bullet points here, you know, and we're talking about us as an entire board, and personally, my feeling is that number one, we work well together, and we're not necessarily always in agreement, 7 members straight across, but I think we work through differences, and I really didn't find an area where I thought, ooh, that's a problem area that we need to focus on, although that's one of the 7 members. So I guess I would ask, anybody find something in this letter A that jumps out at them as an area for improvement? If not, then we're going to ask for some strength areas where we think we're doing great, I guess, and that's defined here in the two areas here, strength areas and growth areas, I guess.
Well, I look at the bullet points, and I don't think you can say that we're perfect with everything, but I think we can always grow on each and every one of these.
One of the areas that I think we have improved on under Dr. Carlson's leadership, perhaps, is the you know, the opportunity for new board members, and I maybe am saying that because I've been here forever, but you know, some of you more recently added to the board. I hope you're feeling that there was some help and some guidance, perhaps probably more from administration than other board members, but I think that is one area where we have improved over the course of the last number of years. But again, not saying that the work is done in any of these areas. That's very well stated also, Mr. Mueller. So if we were going to pick one of the bullet points out of that group and call it what we felt was our claim to fame as a board here, anybody have a suggestion of which one it might be?
I think we do a pretty good job of listening to each other, respecting each other's opinions. Yes, I'm looking at the second bullet point that reads allows for reflection by board members on their individual and collective behavior and performance, if that's what that means. You know, in other words, we work well together and communicate with each other well in a board setting. You maybe don't see that as much in our normal monthly meetings as you do in a work session. Those are just more the right venue, I think, for everybody to get involved and speak their thoughts. But I think we do a good job of listening.
Right. So if we put our number 2 there, like Joanne had stated, and I guess I would follow along with number 3 on, you know, fostering that open communication. I hope that everyone has always felt the opportunity to at least speak their feelings and their ideas openly here. I would take some personal responsibility as a chair if there was someone that felt that they didn't have an opportunity there. And again, I think Dr. Carlson, in leading the district, would be devastated to think there was some type of control over anybody not having that opportunity. So I'd like to say those strength areas would be our communication skills, our openness and honesty amongst board members, and maybe generalize, instead of, like I had said, picking out a bullet point, maybe just generalizing it as our communication skills and openness to the variety of opinions that in working toward the common goal then as a board, and speaking as a board, I think as an end result would be some of our strength areas perhaps.
Could I just add one more? I mean,
absolutely.
I see one phrase on here, and it comes up, I think, pretty much at every meeting. Holds the board accountable for its role as representative of the public. I think we always look at, I think I always hear, how does this look to our public? This is who we represent.
Yep. Good. Karen, can you get something here?
I'm typing as
all
we
right.
are. Yep, I'm just the quiet, I'm typing away.
Hopefully you type better than the.
Right, then we talk. And I guess, okay, and then if we have that identified as strength areas, what can we put for a growth area here? And again, these are tough things to talk about, but they need to be.
Well, I just think educating the public. I mean, I think we do very good on being role models, leadership, and trying to get out there, just like with the building referendum. But to get enough people to understand the whole raft of school financing, what goes on, and I mean, even beyond the education part. I mean, I just get not having kids in school. When I went to the school board convention, it just kind of wowed me of some of the stuff that, I mean, it's just to help them be aware of whether it's our school financing, our structure, what we're doing good in school, what challenges. I don't think you can ever do it enough. I guess that's
Right.
what I think that's
so a growth area would be, how could we summarize that as?
Joanne, help me.
Right.
To kind of piggyback off of the way Rich phrased it, and I had just written down too, these areas are always going to be a work in progress.
Yeah,
And we're never done with
Right.
any of these things. So,
Right. So back to the growth area, if we could do a better job of educating or communicating the needs of our district to the public, is
Or
that?
involving them.
Right,
Yeah,
and
I
involving
just don't know
public,
how
yep.
you can.
How about providing information too?
Sure.
I mean, our main way of providing information right now, other than our board meetings are open, Dr. Carlson has done a great job of, with his news articles. Those are really our two main ways, other than running across somebody at the coffee shop or something.
Right.
Talking one-on-one with members of the community, which is good too.
But a slow process if you're going to do it individually.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I may interject, this might, keep that thought too, because it might, you had a goal area in communication this past year that
Right.
we had, part of my, discussion with my work, we identified that perhaps we didn't, we've done some good things in that area, but probably can do more. And so what I'm hearing ties maybe into kind of that goal again.
Right.
So as you look at carrying goals on to next year, this might be a potential area again.
Right.
Yep.
Dr. Carlson, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't have this at your fingertips, but is there any way to know how many people are actually watching, what is it, the YouTube video when we are holding these sessions now?
Yeah, we were just looking at that earlier this afternoon when we were setting this up, and so there is a way, and so that's something that we made a note of. I'm not prepared to share that, but yes, there would be a way if we, on the live streaming piece, I think we can measure that.
Okay, that would be helpful to know when it's available.
Yep.
All right, we'll move into the goals. Goal number 1 we had of the June 30th, 2020, we wanted to get that deficit down to 200,000.
And I know that the board, you know, we kind of went through this in conjunction because my last work goal was to help you achieve your goal. So I know this might be a little bit of talking more again about the board specifically, your progress. But so I was just going to say, you know, we in the past we had achieving the goal, maybe just the goal's ongoing, and maybe a decision, you know, just discontinue it even if it wasn't achieved. So that's up to you, and that anything ongoing might lead you into help in developing this coming year's goals. So, but in this one, I'll just make the comment that very literally, specifically, yeah, the board met that goal. As you worked through the process. And yes, you modified that, but that happens along the way as well. You're given different information and you're making those decisions as best as you can based on the information available. So,
can you flip the screen to that goal?
Can you scroll down, Dr.
Oh,
Carlson?
I'm sorry, I'm not keeping up.
Thank you.
I have a tendency to feel that we achieved, but
I'm more on the ongoing.
Right.
Because we altered it.
Because we adjusted, right.
And it's still gonna be going on, especially with
Right.
what we got coming this fall, if it does or doesn't. I mean,
Right.
that's right.
And I think that's a valid way of putting it too, because it should be our objective year after year as a school board on the budget issue,
Well,
so.
and to the boards, we do have that control, so let's make it so we can achieve. what
Right,
we
right, right. Everyone comfortable with goal ongoing on that one?
Yes.
And again, I think in the comments section, Karen, we can be a little critical of ourselves of adjusting the
Sure.
the target,
I'll make a
so-
point of that.
It's kind of meeting the balanced budget for you.
Right. Moving on to goal number 2, by June 15th, 2020, the Finance Committee into the budget development process. Finance Committee, how involved are you feeling? Is this something we need to continue to work on, I would assume? It's a pretty good ask that.
Travis is, I think.
Travis is
Joanne.
Travis, Joanne,
On finance and so on.
and Karen, okay. I'll let you guys talk a little bit about that, I guess, then, if, and not to put you on the spot, but again, similar to our budget issues, I mean, is this something we're feeling we're totally achieved at, or is this still a work in progress? And Dr. Carlson, you can feel.
I could just
feel that-
interject, you know, this ultimately is up to the board of how important this group, in my opinion, on committees, board committees, it's number one, it should be, is it beneficial to the board as a whole? Is a board committee beneficial to their overall work of the full board? And so whether that's efficiency, you have that subgroup spending more time. So the other idea about committees is, you know, sometimes you may go beyond just board members and get in a representative group. That hasn't been the case with the Finance Committee. So I would say, in my opinion, the idea is to have a group that really would spend more time, maybe looking at more detail, and then coming back and reporting to the board. So in theory, it's supposed to be a benefit to the board as a whole and the work of this group. And I think earlier in the year, we got a little better start, in my opinion. And so I think there was some progress made. In my opinion, how I would envision the role, that we're not quite there yet. But yeah, but you as a full board would just have to decide, you know, ultimately how beneficial and the role that you think it should be. So.
Comfortable with goal ongoing there?
I think so. I think it'll be good, considering not knowing what our future holds, especially with COVID-19 still out there and with the referendum.
Right.
I mean, we have to know what we have coming sooner rather than later.
But I do like the thought of the finance committee being involved with that committee meeting coming into budgets. I mean, and even the referendum, they should meet as a committee and get a little bit deeper and then report back to the board in the
Whether it's negotiations,
right.
committees, I mean, it's just tough enough to get
the time and right.
You know, as far as, and break down and focus on the
right.
priorities of a committee member.
Yeah. All right, moving into the facilities area. The construction and remodel project achieves teaching and learning needs identified in planning. The maintenance issues here, minimizing disruption to students. We really did a great job on this. I think we're off the charts on how much.
Did we get a 5-star on that one?
Exceeded expectations on that one.
I don't want to throw my shoulder out. I'm patting us on the back here, but no. In all seriousness, again, this construction project isn't complete yet, but I will talk personally about my own feeling of this construction project. You know, we've all been down a long road of that planning process, getting to referendum. It is really great to see the improvements that are being made within both buildings. I hope you've each had a chance to get a little peek at some of that. Sue has done a great job of keeping the website updated as the progress continues, and I am very proud to say that the public is getting a very updated facility out of their tax dollars, and I think we've done well here, and that isn't an individual statement. I think that is a total group effort, and I'm excited to see the end product. So you guys can comment from there.
I guess as it pertains to specifically the goal, are we on pace? I mean, is everything on schedule for if we're back in school in the fall, everything will be done as planned?
As of today, yes. We are to be ready, with the exception of the shop, but yes. Probably we need to be very thankful that we were able to get the project going earlier. And talking to some of the leads today, it was a good thing, because it's not like we're going to be done earlier.
Okay.
So we were in the end, we were fortunate that we were able to start the project earlier. And as of today, yes, we are on target to start turning the buildings back over in different phases to us, beginning the week of that August 17th.
Okay.
So.
Can you when is the shop, thank you, going to be finished? Is that
Still
November?
an October to November
Okay.
time frame.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what I was thinking. It wasn't quite if it was more November or if it,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
And we're still within our budget?
Yeah, I would say yes. As I said earlier in the meeting when I talked about the canopy and so on, we've started to incorporate our long-term facility maintenance. But Ms. Maloney, yes, my general response would be that in combination with LTFM dollars that we had planned. We had planned all along to assist with some of this, so yes. We are, I think, that we've been monitoring the contingency. Knutson Construction, as every day or week passes, they have a greater level of confidence that any change orders will become less and less and less. And so we are getting to that point that they have a high level of confidence that we're probably at about that $40,000 to $50,000 mark in contingency. They're confident that we should be okay with that at this point. So
I think we've addressed both goal 1 and 2 here and I think until this thing is in the books and completed, I feel these goals are ongoing, don't you? I mean, I think this is more of an update type situation, but I think goal 1 and 2 belong in the goal ongoing and we're comfortable, but we'll know further down the road.
Goal 2?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what is goal 2?
Scroll
down again.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
That's more related to that budget, I guess, so.
Right.
You still comfortable with that, Joanne, of goal ongoing?
Yes.
Okay. And then goal 3 is showing there also. The long-range facility plan for addressing, I think Ms. Christofferson kind of hit on that a little bit on that long-term facility plan. Again, a work in progress in my opinion, but we'll always have work to do and improve throughout the school district. So unless anybody wants to add.
I give it the goal achieved.
Would you?
It's something, you do a plan, but you do it every year. So yeah, it's ongoing, but this year's plan is done.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a plan. I agree.
I don't mind getting a better score than we. Yep. All right, we'll call it goal achieved there. Thank you. Moving on to that communication and marketing. Again, I think under the circumstances, this has been a little bit of a struggle, and not to blame everything on COVID-19, but communication and engagement with staff and parents and business community members. I know this has been on Dr. Carlson's radar for quite some time here too. I don't think any of us think we're quite to the max of that, of what we envision it being. Again, I think Mr. Schlake hit it on the subject of informing on the referendum thing. We can always do better here, but go ahead and visit about it a little bit if you would.
Well, I just mentioned that, of course, with this COVID stuff, it kind of changed our ability to interact with the public, staff, whatever. And then I also said I'm not sure this is truly an achievable goal, as again, it never ending. I mean,
Yeah, if you wanted, you probably would want to put some like measurable targets, like say, and whatever that might be,
Right.
whether, whatever kind of media you might want to use and how often or how you might measure that, but absolutely, and then you would always be looking to adjust those. So, and right now we don't really have any of that, and so it's hard to kind of measure.
Start low, we can always go up.
Exactly. High hopes, low expectations.
So it sounds to me like we're talking in this communication and marketing area that those goals are ongoing yet, is where I'm kind of feeling this is leading.
This would tie back, I think, in many ways, of what Mr. Slake said earlier on about communication in general.
Just can't do it enough.
Right.
Well, and like you said too, is unless we're putting a specific thing in there, then these as listed will always just be ongoing, because we can always get better at them.
All right. Moving on to C, assessment of board leadership categories.
In this part C, you'll see again a number of areas that, quite honestly, you've already started to touch on some of these in your conversation already. This just breaks it down even more specifically. And you as a board can spend as much time as you want, but these are identified as key areas to your leadership as a group and the different roles and responsibilities that you have. And so starting with, you as a group and your own professional learning, either individually or as a group. And so how do you feel you're doing with that? What are the things that you feel are most important? We have our orientation program for new board members. I think as a group, as a whole, your attendance, annually to, the conference and so on. But this is kind of, how do you feel you're doing with your development as a board member, individual, and as an entire group?
And I think that individual thing, that can be left, to each one's own reflection, and I don't expect anybody to share that individually. I look at this more as a complete board, and again, there are some areas here on, I think we take that leadership conference very seriously, and we have good attendance there. And I think I may be talking a little more personally, but we've learned to use that a little bit better as a learning tool, and there are some great things that come out of that. So I think that's kind of our strength area of getting a little bit of that. Perhaps we can always attend more conferences and educate ourselves better, and we don't always take that opportunity, time restraints, but.
Well, but there's enough email stuff and
Right.
different newsletters, it's the
Good materials
amount
out
of
there.
material that you get
Right.
bombarded with, I should say, and you gotta sift through to see what grabs your.
Exactly.
It's hard to read everything you get. but-
Right. Right.
Well, I think of late, begin with the School Board Association, there are, what appears on the front end as some meaningful opportunities right now. I mean, there are some, there's always important issues for you to learn about, but right now they seem through their seminar series and so on, at least the titles or the topics seem to be potentially worthwhile if you have the time and the interest, so.
Right. Anything else we want to talk about there, or do we want to move on to the vision and leadership? Looking at vision and leadership, this is, again, going way back to the mission statement and strategic plans and things of that nature. I, in all honesty, kind of struggled with that whole process of developing them, but it is interesting now that they're in place and have been for a number of years. It is a valuable tool to keep comparing back to on that, school district of choice in the arts and academics, and I think that vision and mission statement is somewhat alive and well in the minds of the board members. Sometimes I wonder if we're getting right there, and we'd like to do more and make it easier on ourselves to achieve, but I think it's in the back of our minds.
I agree. I think it's evident we believe in it.
Right.
I mean, we reference it in stuff like this, so it's obviously there that we believe in it. So maybe we don't have enough promotion of it, and,
Right.
and I don't know how much more you do that, but
There again, just because we believe in it and trying to get
right.
everybody else to buy
Right.
into.
Right.
I mean, that's,
You may want to consider, I'm not sure about this year, you're gonna have some priorities here, some big ones, financial, but this is something that really should always be guiding us on those decisions, budget and so on. And so it might be something that, if not this year, we want to set ourselves up for, at least at the board level, take some time and really review our strategic plan, because people would say that really at 5 years, you should be reviewing it at least within 5 years, at least even at the board of director level. So it might be something that, you'd want to consider, first of all, doing as a board, and then, of course, involving that broader community into that strategic plan, because that was the core group of how you first developed it before it came to the board. So it might be something that you would want to prioritize and do sooner than later.
So that growth area might be, Karen, if you could just put something on revisiting the
I
life.
did need to review World's Best Sports Force. I got that one.
There you go. Moving on to the school board meeting. How do you
Can you
think
scroll down, please?
Whoops, Dave.
Sorry. That's it.
Give you a little time to get familiar with that a little bit, but again, I think give a little credit here to Mr. Schlake and Dr. Carlson for getting into the consent agenda items and getting the flow of the school board meeting sped up, I guess. Not that those items aren't important, but I think have trained ourselves to spend some time on it before the actual meeting and familiarize ourselves with those items in that consent agenda, knowing that each item isn't going to be, explained and thoroughly. So, and questions to the superintendent have to be taken prior to the actual meeting. But with all that in mind, again, I would like to think that our meetings are flowing and we're relatively efficient. There's sometimes some items that deserve and demand more time, and so we're not always on target with that hour meeting objective, but I'll let the rest of you talk a little bit about what you're seeing. Or
I also think on the school, at the meetings, to have the certain groups talk to us, so as board members we can know what's going on in the school. That's another, positive thing to bring to the board and say, here, look what we're doing, whether it's Reader's Theater, REACH program, or the elementary when they go on their a reading class that they went to, or talk about their trip to Lanesboro. It just those things to kind of have them engage with the board as well as the public. So I think those things are good too.
truly the part I miss about these virtual meetings. We haven't had that opportunity.
I know, right?
And like you say, it's neat to see what they are doing, because it's more than reading arithmetic.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's.
Yep.
Yeah, great.
So if we don't hear any more conversation about the meetings, we'll keep cruising down to board member relationship and role responsibilities.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, I just did that same thing.
Okay, I can't get that.
We've kind of brushed on this a little bit earlier too, I guess, about the comfort level of people sharing their opinions, and again, I feel that's a very important comfort level that each and every board member should be comfortable with, and I hope that I've never felt that there's something I couldn't bring up or share with either the superintendent or another board member and not be respected or considered. Anybody else have any other feelings out there as how that goes? Silence mean you disagree, or is it
Silence
you're
golden.
afraid to say anything?
We don't want to hurt any feelings.
Right. All right, well, and like I said, we won't take any more or less time than needed on this, so I don't mean to rush, but please speak up if there's something you feel that we're going too fast on. Policy and planning. Dr. Carlson probably can talk a little bit more on this in particular. This is his responsibility to see to it that we keep up to date on this.
This is, other than setting the overall vision for the school district, policy making is at the top of the list for you as a board. And so, I think we have our policy manual, we have a policy committee, but this really is much of what you are most responsible for. And then, of course, comes the budget planning and so on. But you're ultimately responsible for setting the policy for the school district. And I think that, I think you do, in my opinion, you do a good job with that. I need to take ownership of helping facilitate and keep out in front of a policy committee. We are behind right now, just so you know. We had some policies back in the early spring. We should have gotten together and just decided, we'll get it done eventually. So we will, probably next month, policy committee members. We'll need to set something up for next month. So, but anyway, very important, and I'll let you discuss and how you feel you're doing as a board in this area.
Being on the committee, I think we do a very good job. I mean, Dr. Carlson gives us the information we need. I don't know if there's a whole lot more that we can do. It seems like we have a pretty fair policy manual in general.
Right. Keep it up to date and clip away at a few of them every year. And keep.
I mean, it's not like we're bombarded with policy issues throughout the year that require us to go in and say, oh, maybe this is off somewhere.
And I think that's the true gauge of if we were having issues of where policies were being violated, then I'd say we need to crank it up here a little.
I appreciate the board's willingness to look at additional policies, and you've done that, in the last year or two, whether it was class size or we have a couple more that we're working on too, and we don't want to increase the size of that policy manual more than we have to, but I appreciate your willingness to consider potential policies that in the end make us better and really help the running of the school district go better.
Moving on to 6, the relationship and communication with the superintendent. Again, I think this was addressed back with Dr. Carlson's evaluation. I hope everyone is comfortable with the communication process and the comfort level of sharing ideas and having that connection. Again, back to Dr. Carlson's quarterly check-ins, I think we're all given an opportunity to talk there and share ideas, and I don't see any real gap in this area unless someone else does and wants to bring it to our attention of area to improve.
Well, it's kind of our own fault if we don't.
Exactly.
If we don't know what's going on, it's the individual's fault because it's not for lack of information.
Right. Number 7, school community relations. Again, I think we've talked about room for improvement as far, not necessarily in relations, but with our communications there to the community and the involvement, I guess. I know Dr. Carlson gets his article out there. What is that? Every other, once a month? Once a month. And I think we'll get our opportunity now going in the referendum to crank that up again, barring any regulations as far. It might be a little interesting on community gatherings, but hopefully our information can be shared again. And
community gathering shouldn't be, it's hard to get more than 8 people.
I know, yeah, they'll be able to socially distance.
Well, I think one of the strengths, all of this stuff aside, whether, even though that we all have family members involved in school functions, I think as a board we're all very visible at school functions, and to me that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it's good for the public to see, oh, they are here, you know.
We're not hiding,
right?
If a community member wants to get a hold of a board member, our cell phones are on there. I've always been somewhat proud of that on our accessibility, and again, like you said, out in those school events. So, all right, moving on to finance. We've been working hard on this, so we've obviously got the target range on our fund balance that brought us to the referendum question. The calendar's in place. Talked about the finance committee. Letter F about the community being kept aware. It'll be interesting as we go into this, and I again applaud administration for, we haven't kept it a secret that the financial condition was a concern of ours for quite some time here, and the projections of, and now with the projections of no increases, you know, I hope we've gotten that out to the public. So we haven't been keeping any financial secrets, I guess, as a board, as far as I can tell. And I don't know that there's anything that we've been, I feel good that we're on the front side of this before it's been a real doomsday type situation where we're not ignoring it until the problem is out of control.
Yeah, I think we've educated maybe not enough of the dire straits, but we've drug our feet as long as we possibly can, and, you know, not that it's a good time for a referendum with this COVID stuff, but, you know, we probably should have been 3 years ahead of time, but it's tough to do that when you're doing a building referendum and that, you don't want to hit them. But, yeah, and I'll resort back to that survey. I still feel very good about that as a school district, of how they feel the school district has handled the financials, was scored very high. I mean, that was still something that sticks in my mind.
And the workforce relations, this is talking more about the school district employees and the board relationships, and that sometimes can get challenged through our intense negotiations. I think sometimes we get probably a little bit of a title of the bad people out there when we can't quite give the raise, but I think in general, I think the board is hopefully respected by employees and not necessarily, I mean, I hope there's a team effort feel there between employees and board that has a varying level of, based off of some of the tough decisions we have to make and budget restraints, but
Well, and I think as a board, we do a good job of keeping that separation too, in that lines of, you know, I mean, we're a small town. We know a lot of the teachers, and it would be easy for them or us to skip a step.
right.
Whereas, you know, I think we stay out of the way so that they can go to their superiors rather than, well, I'm friends with him, I'm gonna go talk to him on the
Right.
board, and then we'll see what happens.
And a lot of us are respecting, because we do only
Yes.
have one employee, and that's
Right.
Mr. Carlson.
Right.
And I don't care if it's your spouse, best
Right.
friend, whatever.
Right.
And back to your point of negotiations, you know, in a small community, you want everybody to do better and stuff, and you wish you could give them the world, and yet it's tough with, you know, with the times you have. So it's challenging. I mean, but I hope the relationships are, yeah, we've had plenty of tough stuff to both deal with through the years. But again, you probably always do better.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, on a personal level with some of the staff, I'll admit, you know, there's a lot of teachers walk around, I have no idea who they are.
Right.
And there's probably teachers, when they see us, they have no idea who we are. You know, and that, we can do better as a board on that, of just kind of bridging that gap of, you know, we're still a small district, you know.
And I think the staff would be more than happy to have you come in and, you know, I mean, as a substitute teacher, I get to see that. I mean, that just, not saying that I'm better than anyone, but it's been an eye-opener for me as a board member to see what happens inside the school rather than as a parent looking in. It's completely different than what I would have expected. You know, so that's been, you know, great to see, you know, all the challenges that may arise at any given day, high school, elementary, you know, so it's, yeah, so if, like I always say, if you have the opportunity, go ahead, spend even a half a day in each building and just, you know, different department, your classes and things, so, yeah.
All right, well, that brings us through that self-evaluation. If it's okay with everyone, Dr. Carlson and I would like to take an opportunity to kind of go through our 2021 goals and bring them to the August meeting, just in respect of time tonight. We're getting into the 2-hour time frame, and I guess if you have some input, feel comfortable contacting him or myself, but otherwise we would kind of bring them and look at having the opportunity. It'll obviously be a draft and need to be approved by the entire board at that time, so don't feel like there isn't a chance for input, but in a respect for the length of the meeting here tonight, you can kind of plan on that being something we could bring to the August meeting, if that's
Sure, yep.
satisfactory. So
we'll take this input from this discussion.
Right.
To incorporate into that as well.
So
good.
Perfect. Well, thanks everyone for their input on everything and along with this evaluation tonight. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Mr. Schlake to adjourn. Ms. Flatness, please.
Karen Flatness, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Neil Schlake,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Drive safe.
See you later.